Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jaiden Melton, and today I'm going to be speaking an informative speech on the Salem witch trials. I chose this topic because in high school I saw a documentary about the Salem witch trials, and it's something that I just liked to look at. From the 1300s to the 1600s, many lives of innocent people were lost due to paranoia and fear. The wars with America and France sent many refugees to small little towns that were too weak to take them in. The Salem witch trials were caused by power-hungry individuals and political turmoil. This speech will go into detail of the horrific events that happened, the names of the people that were affected, why they were affected, and how the trials affected the American colonists. Cassandra Gill, a publisher of the article Why Were the Salem Witch Trials So Significant, said that the Salem witch trials were caused by religious fanaticism, power-hungry individuals, local disputes, misogyny, anxiety, political turmoil, distress, and mass hysteria. All of these things came together in 1692 to produce what is considered the most lethal outbreak of witchcraft in American history. The witch trials left a long-lasting impression on colonists and provided citizens with a tale of the dangers of intolerance, bigotry, and persecution. Many of the issues that plagued colonial Salem persist in the U.S. today, according to Jill, as thousands of people visit Salem to learn more about the community's place in society. Poorer people of society tended to be the victims of witchcraft accusations known to formerly have been charged with witchcraft. 2 Salem Village church members, 4 ministers' wives, as well as many others were accused of witchcraft throughout the trials. Jeff Wallenfeld, a publisher of the Salem Witch Trials article to the Britannica, stated that the trials lasted from May to October in Salem, Massachusetts. The witch hunt began in Europe between 1300 and 1600 and ended in the 19th century when the last known execution to take place in Switzerland in 1782. Almost 3/4 of the European witch hunts took place in Germany, France, Italy, and Switzerland. The number of trials and executions varied because of the time and place, but it is believed that 110,000 people were tried of witchcraft. The hunt was an effort to identify witches rather than pursue already accused people. Witches were considered to be followers of Satan who traded in their souls for his assistance. There were 2 Salems, one considered the richer town and the poorer was called the village. The village itself had a social divide between them, the Porters, a family who had ties to the wealthy merchants, and the Putnams, who were bearers for the less prosperous farm families. Samuel Parris, a merchant from Boston, became a pastor of the village's church. His wife, 3 kids, niece, and 2 slaves who were from Barbados all moved to Salem Village. This is the first picture. It's not very good. Printed out kind of wrong. May 27th, 1692, after weeks of imprisonment, women who were wrongfully accused of witchcraft, the trials began weeks after. Jeff Wallenfeld, a writer who published the article Salem Witch Trials to Britannica, wrote that William Phipps, governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony, ordered the convening of an official court to hear and decide in Salem town. The court consisted of 7 judges, and the women who were tried were not able to defend themselves without the aid of a counsel. Most likely stimulated from voodoo tales told by Tituba, one of the slaves that Paris had brought. Paris's 9-year-old niece and Abigail, 11, 9-year-old niece Betty, and his niece Abigail began practicing fortune telling. In January of 1692, Betty and Abigail's increasingly strange behaviors turned into fits. They screamed, threw things, made odd sounds, contorted their bodies, and complained of pinching and biting sensations. Looking back, some scholars have said that the strange behaviors may have resulted from asthma, Lyme disease, child abuse, psychosis, or convulsive ergotism. Convulsive ergotism was another speculation, as its disease can cause choking, vomiting, hallucinations, fits, and a sense of something crawling on someone's skin. In February, the local doctor, William Griggs, put the blame on the supernatural. An article posted to the Salem Witch Museum's website described the main points of what happened to the people in Salem of the Salem witch trials. Convicted witches would be picked up in a cart, taken to the execution site where the High Sheriff George Corwin would sign their death warrants. Executed on June 10th, Bridget Bishop. Executed on June 19th, Sarah Good, Rebecca Nurse, and Sarah Wilds. One of the biggest crowds to witness the hangings of Reverend George Burroughs, the King of the Witches, as they called him, and Martha Corey, the Queen of the Witches. Her husband was pressed to death 3 days later. He didn't want to go through with the trials, and he said no, so they squished him to death with a bunch of rocks. That's bad. It is said that these people were laid in shallow graves on top of each other, not worthy enough for proper burial. The families had taken the bodies out of the shallow graves in order to bury them properly, but since it was illegal to have anything to do with the people, they snuck them out at nighttime. Jess Blumberg, author of A Brief History of the Salem Witch Trials, wrote an article on October 23rd, 2007 on the many things that caused the Salem Witch Trials. In the early eras, many religions, including Christianity, taught that the devil could give people known as witches special powers to harm others, as long as they give him their soul. A witchcraft craze ran through Europe from the 1600s to 1689, and thousands of accused witches were hung. In 1689, English monarchs William and Mary started a war with France. The conflict ravaged regions of New York, Nova Scotia, and Quebec. It also sent refugees to Essex, specifically the Salem village in Massachusetts. The extra people put a strain on Salem's resources, aggravating the already existing rivalry between the family ties to the wealth of the port of Salem. Reverend Samuel Parris became the first ordained minister in 1689 and quickly gained a reputation for being stern and cold. Tituba, Parris's slave, confessed that the devil came to her and asked her to sign a book to sell her soul. She said she'd seen black dogs, yellow birds, and red cats. With all of the paranoia, a wild range of accusations followed her over the months. The second image I have, October 29th, 1692. Phipps's wife had been accused of witchcraft, and in response, he vetoed that former court and made another one. He disposed of the court Oyer and Terminer, which is hear and decide, and replaced it with a superior court judicature. This court disallowed spectral evidence and only condemned 3 out of the 56 defendants. With the paranoia and the fear from Tituba, even a 4-year-old girl was accused of witchcraft. They questioned her and scared her so much that they thought that her, small talk was a confession, and they tried her and they hung her. The Salem witch trials were unjust and unfair trials that were looked over until the late 1950s. The actions of fearful and violent, power-hungry individuals will never be forgotten by the innocent families. The Salem witch trials were the result of lies and pressure from many people, and many people suffered because of the wrongdoings of others. My name is Jaiden Melton, and that was my speech on the Salem witch trials. Thank y'all so much for listening.